Alright, I think we're live. If we are, let me know if you can hear me so I'm not talking to nobody here. Let me pop out the chat. And 1 second. Chat's loading. Alright, let me know if you guys can hear me, and then I'll start talking. I guess I'll just sit here and wait. Got you loud and clear. Okay, cool. Alright, let me just go to the top of the chat. Wyatt says, what's up? What's up, Wyatt? Hopefully you have a nice day. How much Christopher Bell do I have? I'm not going to give the exact amount, but I think anywhere from like 20 to 35% is pretty safe for Christopher Bell. Dave says, hey, Chris, what's up? Going to be a great day for racing. Are there any inspection issues today? Not that I saw of. I know they were doing inspection earlier. I did not see a tweet from Bob if there was anyone going to the back, but if that happens during this live stream, please let me know so I can tell everyone. Any John Hunter Nemechek? Yeah, a little bit. He's fine. I don't really like his starting spot, but the price is nice and he's been running really well. Everyone's saying hello, hello, yes, hello everybody. Okay. Good morning, Brent. Race day, says Hank. I agree. Paper's in here. Nick says, shout out from Columbus, Ohio. You're pretty close to me. Do you think Alex Bowman can go overlooked? My thoughts, he's sandwiched between Blaney and Keselowski. His mediocre track history, poor finish last race. Yeah, I could see Alex Bowman being overlooked. I'm not overly excited about playing Alex Bowman, but if we're going to get out low ownership, it wouldn't hate at least matching the field to it, or maybe going slightly overweight. But I will say I like the guys that are right beside him a lot more. I like Keselowski a lot more than Alex Bowman. I like Ryan Blaney a lot more than Brad Keselowski, than Alex Bowman. So, all right, let me just check the chat really quick. People are in here. Okay. So before I start answering a bunch of questions, I do want to do a quick slate overview after I've had some time to get some more polished thoughts. Because when I do my first video on, what was it, Friday, I think? That's just my first view of the entire slate. So what I want to talk about now is who I think is probably good in cash, who I think are some nice pivots in GPP, some guys I think that are going to be high owned. So just talking about dominators, because dominators are obviously going to be extremely important at Bristol. We know if you don't nail the dominators at Bristol, you're not going to win a tournament. That's just, we have 500 laps, 375 dominator points available. We got to get our dominators, probably anywhere from 2 to 4 in your lineup, sometimes even 5, just depending if any of these 7K guys can get up front and dominate. So let's talk about some of the guys I think people are going to jam in for cash as dominators. So I think the first guy everyone's going to plug in is Brad Keselowski at 9,100. He's on the pole, and he's mispriced by around $1,000. He should be in that 10K range. I know Draftkings likes to price guys based off of where they're starting, but this is kind of a joke of a price. We have a guy starting on the pole, obviously great equipment, elite driver, elite team, and he is 9,100. He should be well above 10K. Well, I got to minimize the chat here for a second. It's going to keep me distracted. But yeah, anyway, Brad Keselowski, I know his numbers are not as good at Bristol, but things can happen. Your average finish can get skewed. You can get into an incident. I know, only one top 5 the past 6 races. Not pretty, but he has been leading laps at Bristol. That has not been a problem for Brad Keselowski, and I want guys that can lead laps at Bristol. He's averaging 33 laps led per race here, which I believe is 3rd or 4th most, and he's averaging 21 fast laps per race. I mean, it's not that bad. He's going to be able to lead laps, and the thing is, on the restart, or the start of the race, he only has to beat out Eric Almirola early. I just don't see a scenario where Almirola passes Keselowski early on, and then he's going to have his teammates, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, right behind him, and if they play nice, they should just fall in line and let Brad Keselowski lead the early portion of the race. I don't know if Joey's going to want to pull a move early on, or Ryan Blaney, but if they play nice, they should be able to fall in line, and Brad Keselowski leads the early portion of this race. Now, one thing I thought was a little concerning that I saw Bob Pockras tweeted earlier today, that there is going to be a competition caution lap 20 and lap 60. So it could shake things up. It might hurt Brad Keselowski a little bit. It might not. It could go either way. I'm hoping he stays out front because I do think Keselowski is a really good play at 9,100. I do want him to lead an early portion of this race and let my other dominators lead at another point of the race. But if they fall in line, if he has a good pit stop, whatever they do in the competition caution, and he stays out front, I like Keselowski's chance of getting in the optimal lineup, or at least close to it, or at least just not busting the day. I mean, he's only 9,100. He's got a better chance of dominating than Martin Truex, in my opinion. Much better chance than Alex Bowman. So 9,100 is a really good price, and I definitely like buying the dip on Brad Keselowski, despite his history here not being that great. But he's had a fast car all season. So I don't see a reason to really want to shy away from Brad too much, and you can easily fit him in with other dominators as well. Another cash dominator I think is going to be popular is Chase Elliott, just because he's Chase Elliott. Everyone likes Chase Elliott. I like Chase Elliott, and he just won the last race, and he has been good all season. He's been the fastest car all year, and it's not particularly close. Alex Bowman's right behind him, but I mean, Chase Elliott's just been so good. I believe he's been in the top 4 in average green flag speed besides one race, excluding Daytona, and that was Darlington #1, where he was 7th. So he's been fast all season long. We get a little bit of PD upside starting 6th, and I think the Penske cars probably lead early, but then I think it's going to be Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick at some point in the race. And if I have to trust anyone between those three, it's going to be Chase Elliott right now just because of how fast he's been. He led over 100 laps here recently. So I think Chase Elliott's a really good play to pair with a guy like Brad Keselowski, because you get the savings with Kes, and then you can spend up a little bit for Chase Elliott. And the pricing's pretty soft this week, so if you want to fit in Chase, it's really not that hard pairing him with another Dominator. Then you can throw in a guy like Ryan Blaney. And speaking of Ryan Blaney, I think he's going to be another really popular play as a potential second or third Dominator in your lineups, because he's only 8,600, and I don't get the pricing on Ryan Blaney. I mean, the guy should be close to 10K. He was 10,300 in the last spring race at Bristol last year, and he made the optimal lineup. Like, he is really good at Bristol. He's averaging the most laps led per race here the past 6 races. He's got the second best average running position, and he did get wrecked one of the races when he was up front, so that's going to skew his average finish a little bit, but he has just been so good here, and I like his chances of leading laps, and he's 8,600. I think he can stay in the top 5 all day, just as long as he stays out of an incident or whatever, avoids any penalties on pit road. And I mean, I expect him to lead some laps at some point. I expect him to pick up some fast laps, and at 8,600, you're getting a big steal here, and you can easily fit him in as your third Dominator in your lineup. Like, you can very easily make a Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, and a Ryan Blaney lineup, no problems at all. So I do think Ryan Blaney is going to be one of the more popular drivers on the slate, and I think it's for good reason. So if you want to go overweight on the popularness of Ryan Blaney, I don't hate that either. And then there's some other GPP Dominators you can play if you want to pivot off of these guys like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Joey Logano. So Kyle Busch, I like Kyle Busch a lot, but he's just really, really expensive at 10,500. And as crazy as it sounds, he has not led one lap this season. I think if you exclude Daytona, I think he led a couple at Daytona, but I don't want to use Daytona stats because that's worthless this season, because Daytona is a whole different beast. But yeah, Kyle Busch has not led one lap this season outside of that. But this is a very good track. We all know how good Kyle Busch is at Bristol. Let me just check the chat really quick, make sure my mic didn't go out or something. Okay, we didn't. Anyway, we were talking about Kyle Busch. Yeah, has not led a lap this season, but Bristol is a really good track for Kyle Busch. He's averaging the most DraftKings points per race here at 77.1. He's got the best driver rating. He's won 3 out of the last 6 races, and actually 3 out of the last 5 races. 4 top 5s, the most fast laps, the most laps led. There's nothing bad I can say about Kyle Busch besides his price, and that just Toyota has not been that fast this season. Now, I'm not going to have as much Kyle Busch as I would a guy like Keselowski or Blaney just because of pricing reasons, but I don't mind going, I don't know, at least 20% Kyle Busch, because he's just been so good here. And look, I know he's expensive, but if he goes out there and leads over 200 laps, it doesn't matter what his price is if he's going to lead over 200 laps. So you can jam him in your lineups for sure, and you know, I definitely want some exposure to him. Kevin Harvick, 12,200. He qualified 8th. Now, his numbers aren't going to look as strong as Kyle Busch here, but if you expand these numbers to the past 10 races, he's kind of right there with Kyle Busch in terms of performance. So if we just look at the past 10 races here, he's got an average finish of 12.8, which is actually better than Kyle Busch, but you know, I have to factor in incidents that's happened on the track. So if you look at the average running position, which I think is a better indicator of performance, Busch is at 11.6, Kevin Harvick is at 12.1, which is right up there with guys like Chase Elliott, who's at 11.3. I mean, Chase Elliott actually has the second best average running position besides Eric Jones, but Eric Jones also has a bigger sample size. So, but Kevin Harvick, 3 top 5s the past 10 races, 6 top 10s, averaging the most fast laps actually at 48.3. He knows how to get up front. 1 win the past 10 races. So Kevin Harvick, I think he's fine too. I know he's really expensive, but hey, if they lead over 200 laps, it doesn't matter what their price tag is. We know how good Kevin Harvick has been this season. If you look at the current momentum, averaging 81.5 DraftKings points per race, the best average finish of 4.4, running position of 6.8, 3 top 5s, has a win, averaging the most laps led and the most fast laps, and actually averaging 8.8 place differential spots per race. So Kevin Harvick, I think he's an excellent option. The only bad thing I can say about these two are their price tags, just because, I mean, they're a harder fit than guys like Keselowski and Logano. But speaking of Logano, I really like Joey Logano. I actually probably prefer Logano over guys like Harvick and Busch because he's only 10,700, and you can save about 2K. And Joey Logano's been elite at Bristol. Like, whenever it's Bristol, I love playing Joey Logano. He's averaging 62.5 DraftKings points per race here, which is actually second most out of these drivers in the past 6 races. Average finish of 8.3, average running position of 8.8, 3 top 5s, averaging the third most laps at 52.3. Obviously, it's going to get your fast laps. He's been having a great season so far. Already has multiple wins under his belt. He knows how they get up front and lead laps. I like Logano at 10,700. I know he's starting third and doesn't have much PD upside, but I love the price tag. He always crushes Bristol, so I have a lot of interest in Joey Logano. And like I said, the price isn't too bad either. And then going to some of these mid-range, expensive to mid-range guys that I think are going to be pretty chalky in cash, or just really in general in tournaments as well. Clint Bowyer, he is starting 23rd at 9,800. He's one of the more obvious plays on the entire slate. He crushes Bristol. I don't know if you guys saw my tweet that I posted, but he actually ranks out third overall in just track performance at Bristol for me in the past 6 races, averaging over 55 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 8.2, running position of 9.9. He has 5 top 10s here the past 6 races. That's pretty good odds for him to get us a boatload of place differential spots, and he also has a top 5 as well. He knows how to get up front. He's averaging 24 laps led per race here, 17.5 fast laps. If you go to track type 4 in the past 10 races, which is just Bristol, because we don't really have a good comparison to Bristol, besides really Dover, some of the other steep tracks, but they're not really that close in comparison, but he's got an average finish of 10.5, 7 top 10s the past 10 races. I like Clint Bowyer a lot. He's going to be high owned, but I think it's for good reason. I'd rather play him over Jimmy Johnson, who's a little bit more expensive, but Jimmy Johnson's also been really, really good here. He has 4 top 5s the past 10 races, but I like the discount we get with Clint Bowyer. I think they're both fine options, but I would rather have more Clint Bowyer than I would Jimmy Johnson. And then some other guys I think are pretty popular in the place differential department. I think Christopher Bell is going to come in really high owned. He's starting 35th, and he's only 7,300. He should be pretty popular. If you look at the past 5 races so far this season, he's got an average finish of 18, average running position of 17.6. All likeliness, he's probably going to score around 40 points, which at 7,300 is really not that bad. But I do think there is some good pivots off of him, which I will talk about in a little bit. But another guy I think is going to be popular is Bubba Wallace. He is starting 36. He's at 7,500. Now, if I had to pick between Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace, I will take Christopher Bell pretty much every single time. I know Bubba Wallace has been like low-key crushing for the equipment he's in this season. He's been running really well, but the past 2 races at Charlotte, he's just gotten some really bad luck. But if I'd rather play Christopher Bell, and there's also some other pivots I like in this 7K range over Bubba Wallace. So I don't really see myself having too much Bubba. I really don't mind being underweight on him as well. Some other guys I think are going to be pretty popular. Eric Jones, this is one of the silliest pricings I've seen all season. Eric Jones should probably be closer to 8,500 than he is than 7K. I mean, he is just way mispriced. And this is a pretty good track for Eric Jones. And he actually did lead 260 laps here recently. Now, I don't expect that to happen again. He's not starting up front, but starting 15th, he's averaging 46 DraftKings points per race here. Average running position of 10.8, which is really, really good. 2 top 5s, averaging 50 laps led per race. Now, again, that was just because the one race he went absolutely nuts. But at 7K, he's priced below Christopher Bell. He's priced below Bubba Wallace. I know the PD upside isn't as great as those guys, but Eric Jones is a legit top 5, top 10 finisher in this race, more than likely. So, yeah, definitely like Eric Jones. I think he's a fantastic play, and I mean, just buy the dip on Eric Jones. He is just way too cheap. Another guy I think is going to be pretty popular is Ryan Newman. If people are just looking at their stat sheets, I mean, the numbers are going to pop off the page to you. He has 6 top 15s here the past 6 races. That's a 100% success rate on moving up based on his qualifying position of 17th. And he's also below 7K. Ryan Newman should be around a 7,500 driver. He's priced below guys like Bubba Wallace, Stenhouse, and Bell, and I think that's kind of a mistake. So Ryan Newman, I think he's going to be pretty popular. I know the PD upside really isn't there as much as other guys like Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace, but I also think his finishing potential is much higher than those guys. He also has 2 top 10s here the past 6 races. If you extend these to the past 10 races, he has 9 top 15s the past 10 races, so an average finish of 11.4. So I think Ryan Newman, I mean, he could legit sneak into the top 10. So I think Newman's going to be pretty popular. And that's pretty much going to be it for the mid-range guys. If you want some GPP pivots off of them, I like starting with Kurt Busch. He's 8,300 and he's qualifying 12th. Qualified 12th, you guys know what I mean? It really didn't qualify. He just got drawn out of that bingo machine ball looking thing. But Yeah, Kurt Busch. I think he's got a good shot of getting inside the top 5. I mean, he has been really good at Bristol. Past 6 races, he has 3 top 5s, has a win, 4 top 10s. Doesn't typically lead many laps at Bristol, but at 8,300, I really don't need him to dominate. I could pair him up with Ryan Blaney, who I do expect to dominate at some point in this race. And then, I mean, they could both finish inside the top 5. So I think Kurt Busch, I don't know exactly how low owned he's going to be. I also think he's going to be lower owned than guys like Christopher Bell, maybe Bubba Wallace. Should be lower owned than Ryan Blaney. So Kurt Busch, I think, is a good pivot off of those guys. And I mean, he's just been really good at Bristol. And he's been really fast this season, too. He's actually 6th in average green flag speed. And I'm just checking YouTube to see how many people are in here right now. 210. Nice. Thank you guys for all watching. I gotta get some water. But yeah, we were just talking about Ryan Newman. When I have my notes on my phone, just some drivers I want to talk about really quick. So let me just check the chat, make sure nothing's broken on me. Okay. All right, we're good. No one said my camera's blurry or anything. So for some cheaper cash popular, when I say cash, I kind of just mean like popular guys that are probably pretty safe. I think people are going to flock to the following: Ty Dillon, Ryan Preece, and Cole Custer. So Ty Dillon, he's just the kind of guy everyone likes to play when he's cheap, and he's decently cheap at 6,100, but he's starting near 30th, and the guy's got top 20 upside. For the most part this season, he's been running pretty well. Didn't do that great last race, so I could see maybe some ownership dropping off just because of that people are looking at box scores. But this has been an okay track for him. He's got an average running position of 23.1. He has 2 top 20s. I mean, it's nothing spectacular at 6,100, but if he can move up 5 to maybe 10 spots if we're lucky, avoid the wrecks, Ty Dillon should be a pretty good play. And he did win me a GPP here last spring race, so I do have a soft spot for Ty Dillon, so I definitely will have ownership. I do expect him to be decently high owned. I don't think anyone back here is going to be like over the world chalk at like 30-40%, but I think people are definitely going to be mixing these guys in. Ryan Preece should also be pretty popular. He is at 6K, starting 33rd. I think he's a lock to move up quite a few spots. I mean, he could contend for a top 20, top 25 more than likely. And average running position here at 25, only a 2-race sample size, but he did get a top 20 the one race. If you look at current momentum this season, the past 5 races, he has an average running position of 22.8, average finish of 25. It's not like pretty or anything, but starting 33rd at 6K, he's going to move up spots. I do expect him to be pretty popular back here. And then the next guy I think is going to be popular will be Cole Custer, starting 22nd at 5,600. It's never fun trusting these rookies, and I just realized I didn't go over any other GPP pivots besides Kurt Busch, so we'll circle back to that. But Cole Custer, starting 22nd, he's in Stewart-Haas equipment at 5,600. You can't say that about guys like Corey LaJoie, Chris Buescher, and John Hunter Nemechek. So I think Cole Custer is going to be pretty popular. He's in the best equipment by far out of anybody in this group. Now, we don't have any Cup Series statistics on him, but I mean, overall, just over this season, the past 5 races, he's got an average finish of 18.6, average running position of 20.1. Do I think he's going to move up a bunch of spots? No. But does he really have to at 5,600? Also no. He's got a higher finishing potential than pretty much anybody here besides Chris Buescher. I think they could probably finish close to each other. But I really like Cole Custer. He's in the best equipment here, and he's got 2 top 15s the past 5 races in the Cup Series, and he also has a top 10 mixed in there, so I do expect him to be popular because he's just a little bit too cheap. Probably should be priced above Ty Dillon if we're being honest, so do like Cole Custer and some GPP pivots off of those guys. I like starting with Austin Dillon. He's 6,300. He's starting 20th. No one really likes playing Austin Dillon, and neither do I. I feel like I always say I don't like playing Austin Dillon, but I do every single week. That's what it seems like. I didn't play him last week, but I do have interest here at 6,300. He should probably be around 7K, if not maybe a little bit more. So, and he's priced below Daniel Suarez. So I don't mind going with Austin Dillon. And Bristol actually has been a decent track for Austin Dillon. He actually has 2 top 10s here the past 6 races, 3 top 15s, and 4 top 20s. So this has been a pretty good track for Austin Dillon. I know if you're looking at Daniel Suarez's numbers, starting 37 to 6,500, you're probably thinking that's an absolute smash play. But don't forget, he is driving the lawnmower now. He used to be in Stewart-Haas equipment, which is what Cole Custer is in now. He's in a much worse car, so you kind of have to throw Daniel Suarez's numbers completely out the window. And if you want a more realistic statistic or data of where he's probably going to finish. You have to look at his current momentum, which is around like 28th, 29th for average running position. So it's going to be much different than what you're looking at right now. But yeah, speaking of Austin Dillon though, which kind of got sidetracked there, 6,300. He's too cheap. He can finish in the top 15. He's done that 50% of the time the past 6 races. I mean, his numbers aren't great here, but at 6,300, you don't have to be great. And I think his finishing potential is much better than Ty Dillon and Ryan Preece and Daniel Suarez. So, and he's definitely going to gain more spots than Eric Almirola is. So I think Austin Dillon's a pretty good sneaky play. Not sure how low owned he's going to be because I have seen a couple of other people talking about him. But if he's going to be below 10 to 15%, I don't hate being over. That is terrible as that sounds to say. Some other guys in this price range, Chris Buescher, he's starting 19, so his numbers at Bristol look pretty rough. Average running position of 22.6, average finish of 26.7, but he has 2 top 20s here. In last spring race at Bristol, he was running really, really well, and he was pretty high owned if I remember correctly, and he was actually one of the reasons I won the GPP last spring in the Chrome Horn, because he was running really well, but he was high owned, and I didn't have him. But then I forget what happened, but I feel like a tire got cut, or I can't remember exactly, so I apologize about that. But something happened where he had to pit, which obviously he dropped, and then, I don't know, something happened. It worked out in my favor. But starting 19th at 5,800, he should not be priced below guys like Ryan Preece or Ty Dillon. So we get value there already. He should not be below a guy like Daniel Suarez. So if Chris Buescher can stay inside the top 20, contend for a top 15 at 5,800, which I think he's going to be pretty low owned, I like that as a GPP pivot off of guys like Ryan Preece and Ty Dillon. And then if you just want to go dumpster diving, you can use J.J. Yaley at 5,300, starting 40th. Bristol can tend to pick up a lot of cautions and wrecks. So if he can just survive, and we've had no practice or anything, and there's no rubber on the track, so it might get a little messy quick. So if Yaley can just survive for a little bit and move up 8 to 10 spots, that's not bad at 5,300. So Yaley's your punt. McDowell's fine at 4,900. He's just completely mispriced. I know this is a terrible track for him. He's got an average finish of 31, average running position of 28.4, but he's also priced below guys like Greg Golding, Timmy Hill, and BJ McLeod, and Brennan Poole, which should not happen. So even if he does lose a couple spots, at 4,900, he's going to allow you to fit in guys like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin if you want to, Brad Keselowski, all those guys. So I don't hate McDowell as a punt. And also John Hunter Nemechek starting 18th. He's been running extremely well this season. If you look at his current momentum, he's got an average finish of 19.8, which again loses a spot. But at 5,500, I don't really expect you to gain 5 or so spots. And if he can just stay where he's at, that's fine. And if actually the average finish might be skewed a little bit just because the one race he wrecked early kind of screwed his day. But he also has a top 10 mixed in there as well and 2 top 15. So Nemechek's not bad. So I don't mind Nemechek at 5,500. He's going to be less popular than Cole Custer. So if you want to pivot off of Custer, go to Nemechek. I don't hate that either. And then some mid-range pivots that I kind of just glossed over earlier. I forgot that. So I talked about Kurt Busch. I did not mention Matt DiBenedetto. I think Matt DiBenedetto is one of the, I don't know if I want to say sneaky. I thought he was going to be sneaky on Friday, but looking at what everyone's saying and stuff, DiBenedetto might be one of the chalkier drivers this week. It wouldn't surprise me if he's over 20% owned. Early on, I was thinking, hey, we might get MDB around 15, 10%. I think that's been talked up to like 20 to 25%. So maybe you're just eating the chalk here, but starting 9th at 7,100, I don't hate it because he can contend for a top 10. Do I think it's likely he leads any laps in this race? Probably not. But don't forget, last race, at Bristol, he led the most laps. I think it was 93. Just got edged out by Danny Hamlin at the end. Again, I'm not saying he's going to get up front lead laps or even top 5, but if he can finish inside the top 10, pick up some fast laps, somehow if he gets up front for a little bit, I don't think it would be long. I mean, at 7,100, he's going to pay off his price tag, in my opinion. Even if he loses a couple spots, I think if he finishes anywhere from like 10th to 12th, it's mid-30s, and if you're throwing some fast laps, that's not bad at all. So MDB, I think he's a pretty solid play, someone I certainly have ownership on. I'm just not sure what his ownership's going to be. It could either be 15%, it could be 25%. I'm not really sure, but I do think he's a pretty good pivot off of a guy like Bell because his finishing potential is much higher, in my opinion. And then Tyler Reddick's the last guy I want to talk about. He's 7,900, and then after I talk about Tyler Reddick, I'll stop talking for a little bit and let you guys ask some questions. But he's starting 21st, and I know he's a rookie, but he's just been running so well this season. If you look at current momentum, he's got an average running position of 13.7 the past 5 races, 4 top 15s, 2 top 10s. He's probably going to pick up some fast laps, and this is a really good track for him if you're in the Xfinity Series. So I think Tyler Reddick should have a pretty good race. I don't think he's going to be that high owned either because he's priced above guys like Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell. And he's also right below guys like Kurt Busch and Ryan Blaney. So if Tyler Reddick goes under the radar, I like being overweight because, look, he could honestly contend for a top 10 in this race and he's going to pick up some fast laps. So I think Tyler Reddick's a pretty strong play for tournaments. I think that's going to be pretty much it for a quick overview of this slate. So I'm going to open up the chat section and get some water. Alright, I think I'm caught up on the chat. Let me see how many people are actually in here. 267, nice. Thanks to everyone that's in here right now. So if you have any questions, let me know now. I'm going to scroll up a little bit and just see if I missed anything at all. I know I probably answered some of you guys' questions already early on, so I guess if you guys want to just ask questions now, just whatever one I see, I'll try to answer. But I'm just reading your chats at the moment. Dave says, are Bubba's brakes going to hold up today? Personally, I hope not, because I don't have much Bubba, just because I like the guys right beside him. Big Ritter says, you guys like Blaney over Bowman. I do like Blaney over Bowman, just because Blaney's just been so good at Bristol. And, I mean, Alex Bowman's been great all season long. It's just, I prefer Blaney. He's a little bit cheaper. I mean, his path to dominating is easier, so I'm going to trust Blaney there. But Bowman does have more place differential upside. Let's see. Okay, let me answer some questions. Brent says, Matty D or Christopher Bell? Cash, you're going to want to go Christopher Bell. GPPs, I think Matthew D. Benedetto is a really solid option. He's just riskier, but I think he has much higher finishing potential. Levi says, that's not talking to me. KT says, all right, everyone hit that like button. I agree. You should probably hit that like button. I do appreciate when you do. I think last live stream we got up to almost 200 likes during the live stream. That was awesome. Let's see. Big Ritter says, what about LaJoy? Not too big on LaJoy because the guys right beside him, Chris Buescher I like more, Cole Custer I like more, I like Nemechek more. Corey LaJoy's got more place differential upside than those guys, but I really don't think he's going to move up too much. I mean, he's got an average running position here of near 30, so I think the upside for the other guys is a little bit higher. Michael says, should Eric Jones be in your 3 Dominator group? No, just because he's 7K. You can get away with him in your place differential group, and to be honest, I mean, he could be a Dominator, so I'm not really categorizing him as one, but he could potentially. Paper says, Bell or MDB in single entry GBP? That's like a question I've been getting a lot, and I'm not really sure what to say. I think Bell, he's the safer option. I think Bell can probably score around 40 points, but I also think MDB can as well, and he also has upside for more with, you know, maybe getting some fast laps, maybe potentially getting up front. So I think MDB is a really strong GPP play, but Bell is definitely safer. It just depends on how the rest of your lineup looks. Like if you already have some other GPP pivots in your lineup, maybe you go with Bell. But if your lineup's like pretty safe and chalky, maybe you pivot to MDB. If that makes any sense. Legalize says, Buescher, LaJoy, Priest, Custer, Poole, McDowell. Are you asking me to pick between one of those guys? I guess on that one I would pick. I'd say it's between Priest or Custer there. And really, it's just a flip of a coin, to be honest. Custer's got the higher finishing potential, but Priest has the more likeliness to get positive place differential. Drew says, Bubba has been really solid at Bristol if his car can make it to the end. Yeah, for sure. It's just I prefer, if he's going to be chalky, I take my chances with Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick's in the same price range, Eric Jones, MDB. So I just like the pivots off of him. I don't feel comfortable having like a ton of Bubba Wallace at this price tag. If he was cheaper in that 6K range, yeah, sure, I'd be all about it. But 7,500 just makes me a little bit worrisome. Like I know it wasn't looking too good for me at Charlotte at when he was crushing inside the top 10 when he was 81 or 8,300. But I just full faded him, and I was looking not that smart for a little bit, but hey, things can happen, especially to a guy like Bubba, so it ended up working out. Dominique says, favorite play below 5,300. Does Yaley count as 50, like below, or do you mean like 5,200? Well, I guess that would be McDowell if it has to be below Yaley, but I would prefer Yaley if he was included in that price range. Let's see. Mike says, I got 7,700 left. Who would you pick with that? Depends what the rest of your lineup looks like, but Christopher Bell, 7,300. He's the most expensive out of the group. Eric Jones, MDB. I think Eric Jones probably scores the most points out of anyone in that group, so I'd go with Eric Jones unless you already have him, but I'd say take your picks from Bell, MDB, and Eric Jones. Even Ryan Newman's not bad either. Ninja says, early caution laps concern you with Keselowski leading. Yeah, I talked about that earlier. You might have missed it, but it could be a little bit concerned. I'm not sure what's going to happen on the caution laps. I don't know if people are going to stay out. I don't know who's going to take 2 tires, who's going to take 4 tires. I'm not totally sure, so can't give you like a really great explanation, but it might worry me a little bit. But I don't know. Brad's known to do some funky things to get up front, so I'm hoping he stays up front, leads close to 100 laps. We'll see, but I'm not totally sure. But the price, like if he was $12K, yeah, I'd feel like maybe we should jump off the train a little bit. But at 9,100, we can get away with a little bit more things, so we can give him some leeway. Dylan says, how much Kyle Busch do you have? Well, I had that posted on Patreon, so I'm not going to just throw it out there. But I think anywhere from like 20 to 30% Kyle Busch is pretty good. Landon says, hi. Hi, Landon. I always see you in the comments section. Matt says, how will second competition caution hurt Kes? It just can shake things up. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen on pit road. I have no idea, but we'll see. I'm hoping he's going to be fine and stay up front. Michael says, rank Bell, MDB, Jones, Wallace. I guess I'd go Jones. Bell safer than MDB, then Wallace. Diego says, who would be a low-end driver from? I think you're missing part of the question, but for the low end, I think guys like McDowell, Yaley, Nemechek, Custer, Busher are all fine. Let's see. UK Cat says, FanDuel, who you like? I don't know. I don't know anything about FanDuel. I don't play FanDuel. Some people in the chat might be able to help you out a little bit better than me, because I don't, I've never played FanDuel NASCAR before, I don't think. Maybe once way back in the day, but I don't really put any thought into FanDuel ever. I know finishing position is much more important on FanDuel than it is anything else. Chris says, what about Martin Truex Jr.? So this has not really been a Martin Truex Jr. track. He has led laps here before, but if you're just looking at his history at Bristol, it's not that pretty. If you look at his past 10 races at Bristol, he's got an average finish of 21.3, which again, can be skewed a little bit out because of wrecks. So if you look at his average running position, it's 14.9, which is not terrible, but it's not great. It's not as good as guys like everyone ahead of him. And he has no top 5s, 1 top 10, 3 top 15s, and only 4 top 20s. It's not been a great track for Martin Truex Jr. at all, so he's not someone I'm really that high on. You can sprinkle him in just in case he dominates, but I think that's not really likely to happen. I do like his price, though. It's just I can take a $300 discount for Brad Keselowski, who's like kind of guaranteed to lead laps early. Drew says, Elliott and Blaney have the 2 pit stalls at the end of each pit road. Yeah, and Elliott, I forgot to mention, he's got the first pit stall, so that's going to be huge for Chase Elliott. I mean, obviously it's going to help, and, he's got a good pit crew. He can get out there fast, and he's just been fast all season. So really like Chase Elliott as my favorite, expensive Dominator. SDP says, Eric Jones or MDB, GPP. I will take Eric Jones because I think he's just insanely mispriced. John says, hey, Chris, hey, John, any high-priced full fades in GPP? Ooh, full fades, well, I will say I don't like the price on Denny Hamlin. I really don't like the price on, really just Denny Hamlin. I'd rather play Chase Elliott. I'd rather play Harvick. I'd rather play Busch. Hamlin has been good here, so I'm a little bit scared being underweight on Denny Hamlin, but if I had to pick someone to be lowest on there, it'd probably be Denny Hamlin. OS says, thoughts on Alex the Showman Bowman. The thoughts are bad right now because he really hurt my feelings last race when he wrecked in second, but he's fine. It's just I prefer Ryan Blaney more. I prefer Kurt Busch. I like Reddick more. I like Keselowski more, so he's kind of sandwiched in a bad situation there. I think you should probably have at least 10%, maybe, I don't know, at least 8%, and then just probably cap that at 15 to 20, somewhere around that range. But he's just been so fast this season. But he has not led any laps at Bristol. But, I mean, this season, Chevys are on a whole other level. So it would not surprise me if he sneaks into the top 5, gets some fast laps, maybe gets up front at some point. It can happen for sure. G Falls says, Busch, Elliott, or try to fit both. I probably have some lineups that do fit Busch and Elliott together just because pricing's pretty soft. But I would prefer Elliott. M. Dilly says, with the switch to the low downforce package, chat just broke on me. Sorry. If I can't find your question, I apologize. My chat just went crazy down low. So, okay, to answer your question, I'm pretty much just looking at still recent track history and just this year because we have no practice, and that's really the only things we can go off of. I mean, yeah, I think that might help Kevin Harvick, guys like that, and it might even hurt Alex Bowman a little bit because he's just been so good with the high downforce package. So that's another thing. I might be a little bit lower on Bowman, but overall, I'm just kind of picking the guys that are always good at Bristol, guys that have been really good this year, and I think we're probably going to see the guys that have been running good still run good. If that answers your question, I'm sorry. DFS Pope says, what about a 3 Dominator stack with some PDs? I think most of my lineups probably have 3 Dominators because Blaney's really cheap. Kurt Busch could be a potential Dominator starting 12, so I think really most of everyone's lineup probably have 3 Dominators. Takumi says, Reddick was killer with this package at Phoenix. Not sure how the package will affect the stats. Yeah, it's just he's been so good this season, so I'd probably expect him to keep running good. He's starting 21st, 7,900. You get in the Xfinity Series here, so... sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. So I think Tyler Reddick's going to be a pretty good play. I think he's going to be pretty low owned too. Decently low owned. I don't think he's going to be like below 10%, but he's probably going to be anywhere from like 10 to 15%. Brent says, I'm going to roll with Matty D. Thanks. You're welcome. Hopefully he does good. Aaron says, who do you like as late stage Dominator? So I think probably Team Penske leads the early portion of this race because, I mean, look, they're starting all in the top 4. I think they probably have the early Dominator points, and I think anyone like Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch come in and lead laps later. And even maybe Clint Bowyer comes in at the end just because he's starting 23rd, so it's going to take him a little bit to get up front, but I could definitely see that happening. But I do think Team Penske probably is most likely to lead early on. And then there's really expensive guys probably later in the race. Sincere says, get these likes up for our brother. Yeah, I agree. Probably should. I just want to check and see how many people are in here. 275. Almost 100 likes already. Nice. Thanks to everyone that leaves likes. It helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. More people see my stuff. And I've been noticing a lot of people have been seeing my stuff recently more than usual, so I do appreciate that. Michael says, Denny Hamlin, Austin Dillon, or Joey Logano, Ryan Newman. I would go Joey Logano, Ryan Newman, and I don't really think it was that tough of a decision for me, so definitely go Logano and Ryan Newman. Conscious says, leave a like. Yeah, I agree. Leave a like. Legalize says, guys, this is all a guessing game. I mean, okay. Glenn says, DBD says, MDB led 93 laps last race. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was really good last race, and he's in much better equipment than he's ever been in. I mean, he's in the 21 car for Wood Brothers Racing, much better than the car he was before, and he was running really well before. So I would expect him to probably stay within the top 10 and contend for maybe getting up front at some point in the race. Dion says, you consider Johnson. Yeah, I like Johnson. It's just I don't like him as much as Clint Bowyer, so I'm lower on Jimmy Johnson than I am Clint Bowyer. Michael says, are you playing some 2 Dominator lineups? Tough to get 3 Dominators in and someone in the 7K. Yeah, I have some 2 Dominator lineups, but most of the 3 Dominator lineups include a guy like Ryan Blaney, and then just because of his price tag at 8,600, 8,600. But if you're playing like a Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, it's gonna be tougher to get in those 3 Dominator lineups. Country Boy says, Harvick A. Dillon or Harvick Ty Dillon? That's a really good question. I think Harvick Ty Dillon's safer, but I think Austin Dillon's got that higher finishing potential. So GPP, I'd go Harvick Austin Dillon, and cash probably Harvick Ty Dillon. George Trotman says, who's your most owned driver today? Shooting my shot at this front row contest on DK. I don't want to give away my highest owned driver, but let's say Eric Jones and Ryan Blaney are definitely up there, and also Keselowski. Cyber says, who's got the number 1 pit stall? You said stop. I assume you mean stall. That would be Chase Elliott because he won last race. Sincere says, who do you feel will make a sneaky move up when the competition flag? Well, it's usually a guy like Joey Logano or Brett Keselowski, and they're starting up front, so it gives me less of a concern, but Alex Bowman can certainly pull something out of rabbit out of the hat or something like that. I don't know, these guys that are starting further back, I don't know, Jimmy Johnson maybe, but I mean, usually the guys that do some funky stuff on pit road are already up front, so it's going to be pretty interesting because Brad Keselowski is usually doing something different. Ryan says, Clint Bowyer or Jimmy Johnson? I'll go with Clint Bowyer just because he's a little bit cheaper. Sean says, in my honest opinion, a guess with more information is better than a guess without. I mean, yeah, everything's statistically projected here, it's just not naming random things. I mean, yeah, there's some randomness to it, but you can set yourself up for success if you know what you're doing, you know how to do optimal lineup construction, all that kind of thing. So yeah, we're just guessing, but we're doing it with statistics. Black Babone says Truex or Boyer. I'll go with Boyer. Legalize says Elliott got number 1 pick. Yep. Matt says Jones or Suarez cash. Eric Jones for sure. George says Chase, just answering someone else. Legalize says never Suarez. Forget him. I hate Daniel Suarez, man. Hate playing him. He is starting 37th though. He could move up 10 to even 15 spots if he avoids wrecks, but it's never fun playing Daniel Suarez. I really don't have that much Daniel Suarez, especially at that price of $6,500. I prefer the guys that are a little bit cheaper. You're welcome, Cyber. Ryan says, switch my lineup, can fit Johnson or stick with Boyer. I would stick with Boyer. I know it's tempting to even out your lineup salary-wise, but I do think Clint Boyer scores more points than Jimmy Johnson. I think it's going to be really close, but I think Boyer's got the better chance of getting up front. BVB says, how much exposure to Boyer will you have? I think anywhere from 25 to 35% is probably a good range for Clint Boyer because he's pretty safe with his PD upside. And if you're playing Clint Boyer, you don't want to pair him with the guys like Jimmy Johnson and all these guys starting in the back. I mean, you can play them both together, but if you're playing Clint Boyer, you need to pair him with a guy like Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, or Joey Logano that are starting up front to get those early Dominator points because Clint Boyer is certainly not going to get any Dominator points early on, starting 23rd. Nicholas says, will Truex have a... I hope not because I don't really have much Truex at all, so I'm a little sweaty on the Truex situation for me, but... Look, he's led laps here before, but finishing-wise, this has not been a good track for him. He just seems to get caught up in the mess, and I don't know, I'm pretty low on Truex. I prefer the guys below him and above him. DFS Pope says, what is your crunch number at? Do you mean, like, how many lineups? I built 150 lineups. I've done, like, if you mean crunches, I've done, like, 70 trying to get it right. Landon says, I hope my driver wins again. Chase Elliott for the win. I mean, Chase Elliott's got a good chance of winning. He's just been so fast this season. Best average green flag speed. He's good at Bristol. I mean, there's nothing bad I can say about Chase Elliott. I like him a lot. Our rep says, Boyer or JJ, DK, GPP. I think JJ's going to be lower owned, but I just think overall Boyer's going to score more points. So I'll go with Boyer, but Jimmy Johnson will be lower owned. Sean says, got in late. Thoughts on Priest? I think he's a pretty safe bet to get positive PD starting 33rd. I mean, finishing potential is not at high, but you just have a top 20 here. And look, he's starting 36K. He's going to be pretty popular. I think he's a pretty good option. If you want to split your exposure between Ty Dillon and Ryan Preece, I think that's probably a pretty good way to go. Frank says, who do you think is the biggest PD play, and what do you think of Kenseth starting that far? Is he worth a pick? I think probably the biggest PD play is going to be Clint Boyer. I expect him to be pretty high owned. Oh, I guess I'm thinking top range. I guess PD play overall, Christopher Bell is going to be really popular. So will Bubba Wallace. So I guess probably Christopher Bell is going to be the biggest PD play, and Clint Boyer for the expensive group. And thoughts on Kenseth as well. Not really that high on Kenseth. I know if you're looking at the screen, his numbers are great at Bristol, but don't forget, he's in a different car now. He retired. It's been a while. He's not been that great since returning. I'm not really that interested in Matt Kenseth. He's fine in tournaments, but give me Kurt Busch instead. Give me Tyler Reddick. So I'm not really going to be too high on Matt Kenseth. Zach says, I think people are sleeping on Almirola. Oh, here, Almirola's got a really tough path here. First of all, he's not good at Bristol. And second, he's surrounded by Team Penske. Brad Keselowski's going to start in front of him. Well, technically side by side, but Brad Keselowski's there, Ryan Blaney's there, Joey Logano's there. They're all better cars, and then you got Truex behind them, you got Harvick, you got Busch, and you got all the Chase Elliott. I don't see how Almirola has a chance of even leading. I mean, look, he could beat Keselowski on early on, but Kes is going to get pushed by a teammate. Team Penske is probably going to train 1, 2, 3 early on, and that's just what I think most likely happens. I don't see Almirola working out. Nick says, Truex Wallace hurt me deeply, 4th on restart, but main events. Wallace didn't finish race. Trust me, reset crushed without. Yeah, for sure. Dave says, if Kyle does not find his speed, he will hurt a lot of... Yeah, for sure. So, I think Kyle Busch is going to probably be anywhere from 20-25%, and I'm probably right around that range. It's just he's so expensive. If I can get away with just playing Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Keselowski, Blaney, I'm going to have more of them than Kyle Busch just because of price reasons, and he's just not been fast this season. But if there was a track for him to get on track, it's Bristol. So Legalize says Almirola is going backwards. First, I really don't see Almirola finishing inside the top 10, top 15, if we're being honest. So I think he's a pretty bad play. Nick says Wallace has been doing well, then his car gives out or something. Yeah, I mean, Bubble has been running pretty well the past 2 races, but he's just been getting into trouble. Can't really project it. Chris says Chris Patreon is only $10 a month, worth a small. Yeah, I appreciate everyone that does support me over on Patreon. We're over like 210 people now. Just like a month ago, I had like 60 or 70. So really do appreciate the support on Patreon. Put a lot of work into that. So do appreciate that. Links in the description below if anyone's ever interested. Justin says Stenhouse, is he worth a go with his last finish? I really don't have much interest in Stenhouse. So he's right beside Christopher Bell, right beside Bubba Wallace, right beside Tyler Reddick, right beside MDB, Eric Jones. He's going to be really low owned, but I'm not going to chase that last finish. I really don't have too much interest in Ricky Stenhouse. He's got an average running position here of 18.4. I mean, he's probably going to finish right where he is, if not further back. And we know how likely Ricky Stenhouse is to wreck every given race. Bonnie says, thoughts on Bowman? So my thoughts on Bowman are he's sandwiched between a bunch of guys I like more than him. So Kurt Busch, Blaney's there. Then you got Keselowski. Then you got Boyer. I mean, I know Alex Bowman's a little bit cheaper than those guys, but starting 11th, look, I think he can probably finish inside the top 6, top 7, but I really don't think he's going to lead many laps. I think Blaney's more likely to lead laps. Kurt Busch, I think, can outscore him. I think he can finish higher than Alex Bowman. I mean, this has been a pretty solid track for Bowman with an average finish of 12.8. He does have a top 5, but he has no laps led. But I think that could change because of how fast he's been this season. So I think he's a fine tournament play to put around 10% on, maybe 15%. But don't forget the switching packages too, which Bowman's been really good with the other one. So we'll see. I mean, he's fine to sprinkle in. I just don't have too much interest in Bowman. Let's see. Where are we at? Oh, Walt just donated $2. I forgot you could even do Super Chat. Thanks. Thanks, Will. Appreciate that. You didn't ask a question with it or I would have answered it immediately, but thank you. Appreciate that. All right, anyway, where are we at? John says high ownership with the soft pricing. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people are going to be pretty high owned. Legalize seems to think we can't project this at all, so I don't know what to tell him. John says high ownership. I already read that. Zach says, I think people are sleeping on Almirola. Well, I think we already went over that. I really have no interest in Almirola. Ryan says, my lineup is very chalky. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty chalky day in my opinion. I think there's going to be a lot of drivers that are underpriced that are going to be really high owned. So there is some GPP pivots we can make, but I do think this is going to be a pretty chalky week. Rick says you should play 100%, Zach. I'd really never recommend going 100% on anybody because it's NASCAR, but if you want to go for it and he hits, you'll be probably raking in the money. Rob says chances on Ricky looking awesome again today, probably less than 50%. Jeremy says top plays. I'm not just going to give out all my top plays. I already talked through everything already, so hopefully you guys can be able to distinguish who I like and who I don't like. Sean says last minute thoughts on Priest. I might be behind in the chat, so I did answer you on that already, but I think he's a fine PD play. Drew says favorite play from anyone 6,100 or lower. Probably Ryan Priest, Cole Custer. I think those are probably my favorite plays below 6,100. Rep says JJ or Boyer, DKGBP. I think I already answered that. You might have asked it again. Mike says, I tried to talk myself into playing Eric Almirola, but I saw no bright side if he leads 20 laps or so and finishes inside top 15. I still see better values cheaper. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Eric Almirola is 6,700. I'd rather play Daniel Suarez. Crazy that sounds. And then you have Eric Jones right ahead of him. Ryan Newman's right ahead of him. Christopher Bell. So I really don't see the reason to want to play Eric Almirola. OS says thoughts on Showman the Bowman. Answered that already. I'm sure you probably already heard. Rick says gulp. Will says give me your top 3 today. I mean, top 3 what? I think Keselowski's a pretty good play. Blaney's a pretty good play. And I don't know, Eric Jones is pretty cheap. I mean, those are some of my favorite drivers. It's not like everything, but I think those are pretty safe bets at their price tags. Conscious says, I post your name on all sports chat. Appreciate that, Conscious. Get the name out there. I do appreciate that. DFS Pope says, will you update projections before lock? No, I think my projections are staying where they are. I think I did 3 updates, and I feel pretty comfortable where they are at the moment. Justin says, should I start Daddy Dave or Bitchy? I'm not sure what you're asking there. Sean says, I did spread the word on DraftKings I assume Madden. Appreciate that, Sean. 100 likes, keep it up. Thank you guys who are liking. Let me check how many people are in here right now. 288, awesome. All right, I think your name is Jamie. How important is pit position? Who might it benefit? Well, it's pretty important, especially at Bristol. You got Chase Elliott up front, which I think is going to help, at first pit stall, which I think is going to help him out. So definitely can help Chase out to get, track position, which he doesn't really need track position starting 6, but it can certainly help him get out front. Conscious says, is Almirola just a dumb pick, or could he take advantage if an early caution takes out some big boys? It might sound mean, but I do think he's kind of a dumb pick because I just don't see how he's going to beat out Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and Keselowski, kind of teaming up on him. Let's see. Alan says, BK Blaney. I was thinking DK. Keselowski and Blaney and Joey, too much same team. No, you can stack Penske. I like Penske a lot. I know they're starting up front, but I mean, if you look at past optimals, I mean, there's quite a few guys starting inside the top 7, like 2 to 3 guys starting in the top 7 that make the optimal lineups before. So, and the prices are pretty good on them. So yeah, I think you can stack Team Penske for sure. I think a lot of people are going to do that actually. Anthony says, guess on Kyle's ownership today. I was going to say, I assume you mean Kyle Busch, but Kyle Larson's not here anymore. So Kyle Busch probably going to come close to 25% if I had to guess. Again, I don't know how to project ownership exactly, but I think that's probably a safe bet for where he's going to be. Justin says, who would you play from the bottom 8? Do you mean bottom 8 pricing? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I guess, what is that, like Timmy Hill and down? I guess Michael McDowell, just because he's cheaper than he should be. He probably should be around 54, 5,500. So yeah, I'd rather play McDowell than anyone down there. And again, thanks, Will, for the $2 donation. You don't have to do that. Appreciate it. Diego says, how can we get onto your Patreon content? The link should be in the description below. I'm not sure exactly how it looks on a live stream, but there's like a big orange circle I put there. You can hit the link there and it'll take you to my Patreon. Just the thing is, you get charged on the first of the month, and I have no control over that. I don't do it on purpose, but Patreon charges everyone on the first of the month and when you sign up. So it's like, it's a bad situation because there's a race today, which is the 31st, and then tomorrow's the 1st. So it kind of screws you guys, but there's just really nothing I can do about that. I feel bad, but Jamie says, how important is, I think I already answered that. Roy says, Eric Jones or Boyer? Well, there's a big price difference. I think Eric Jones is probably the better value, but I think both are pretty good. Let's see. Kobe says, okay, never mind. He's just answering someone. Roy says, Jones, Boyer, Keselowski. Well, I think are you just asking me to pick between them? I mean, they're different price ranges, so I really can't pick one. I mean, I think Jones is probably the best value, if that's what you're asking. Matt says, Kyle or Harvick cash. Whew. So Harvick's been a lot better than Kyle Busch this season, but I want to say Kyle Busch just because of how good he's been here, so I guess I would go Kyle and cash, but I don't really think you have to play Kyle and cash because of that price tag. DH says, has Boyer finished a race? Yes, he has, but he's really good at Bristol, so I know he can tend to wreck sometimes at other tracks, and this year, but I really think starting 23rd, he's pretty safe play. Rob says, I only play about 5 lineups in the big tourney. Would it be better to risk lower owned drivers for the difference in ownership or go with the balanced lineup? I think you should make some lineups that are pretty risky with low owned guys, and I think some lineups you should probably just eat the chalk, because sometimes the chalk hits, and even though you're tying with everybody, it's better to tie in first place than it is to finish outside of the money trying to get sneaky play. So I think you could probably mix your lineups between the 5. So yeah. Joseph says, where do you find green flag speed stats that you reference in your video? So I actually have it on my spreadsheet. You can pretty much just Google it and find it on most public websites. So I'm not sure the exact name, but it is in my spreadsheet. Michael says, what is your heat map for? It's just basically it's for Patreon. It's like if you just put the qualifying order and then like I'll have the drivers here and then it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's like a map of how many points they would score if they finished in that position, excluding any Dominator points, if that makes sense. Jay the Saint says, Eric Jones or Christopher Bell? Oh, man, that's a tough question, isn't it? I think Jones can outscore him. It's a little bit riskier because he's starting 15th, but I think Jones has a better chance of finishing in the top 5 than Bell does the top 15. If that helps. Justin says, I got 1 lineup left, 1 spot, favorite from the bottom 8. I would say McDowell, but I mean, no one down there is really exciting to me. If Yaley's in the bottom 8, I'd rather play Yaley, but I don't think he is. Anthony says Bell is only 6K on FanDuel. I don't know much about FanDuel, but that sounds pretty cheap for a guy starting 35th. So, yeah, Christopher Bell is probably going to be pretty popular over there. Jonathan says Reddick or MDB for GPP. Oh, Reddick's a little bit more expensive, but he's got the safer place differential upside, and they can probably finish close to each other. So I guess I'd say Reddick, but you can save some salary with MDB and might be able to upgrade somewhere else. Michael says 42 teams always strong here. Kenseth will have good equipment. Yeah, I mean, he's got a good equipment, but Kyle Larson and Matt Kenseth have different driving styles. Kyle Larson likes to ride the high line, so we'll see. It'll be interesting. Mike says, did I miss the reply to my question about laps led during yellow flags and Draftkings counting those laps that get counted down? I don't think I saw that question. I mean, yeah, they count the yellow flags for laps led. I don't think they do anything for fast laps, though. KT says LaJoy or Custer. I will go with Custer just because I think he's got higher finishing potential, and he shouldn't be that cheap. He's also priced below LaJoy, so I do like that. Harvick or Kurt Busch? Well, I really can't answer that, Harvick or Kurt Busch, because that's like a $5,000 salary difference. So you're gonna have to give me a 2v2 there. Mike says, is playing both Dillons GPP worthy? Yeah, you can do that. Austin Dillon could sneak in a top 15. Ty Dillon could maybe get close to a top 20. That's not terrible. And you're probably going to be able to fit in some pretty good expensive guys. Well, chat just went all the way down on me, so I probably missed a lot. John says, thoughts on Harvick? I think Harvick's a good play. I mean, he's just been so fast this season. He's getting all the fast laps. I mean, a lot of the fast laps on him and Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, but Harvick's been so good. He was really, really fast on Thursday, but his car fell like a rock on late runs. So we'll see. I definitely have exposure to Kevin Harvick. He can certainly get up front. I think the new package will help him out a little bit, but I don't know. I don't really think I like him over Logano because of price reasons, but Harvick's fine. I'll definitely have some exposure to him. JJ Yaley worth a shot starting 40th. Yeah, for sure. He's my highest owned guy in that like really low scrub range. I mean, he's not higher owned for me than like I like Cole Custer, but like in that scrub range, I mean, JJ Yaley's not bad at all. Diego says, who do you think is a bust? I think Hamlin could bust at 11,600. He's starting 10th, but I think Harvick's more likely to dominate. Busch, Elliott, Logano. Then you got the PD upside with Johnson and Boyer, and I mean Truex could bust too. So I'd say maybe those two guys. Justin says, is Danica a better play than Steno? Sometimes, but they both like to wreck a lot. Rep says, you leaning balanced or stars and scrubs DKGPP? I think balance is a pretty good way to go. I mean, you don't really have to overly force anything this week. So if you want to roll out Joey Logano, Keselowski, Blaney, and then you throw in some Jones, Bell, I mean, that's pretty balanced. And it's also, you got 3 potential dominators in there as well. So I think balance is fine, but I certainly have lineups with these guys in the 12K range too. I mean, they can certainly get up front. And we have 500 laps. So if one of them leads over 200, you're going to probably want them in your lineup. Let's see. Diego says, thoughts on Matt Kenseth? I just like Kurt Busch more. I like Reddick more. So I really don't have too much interest in Kenseth, but you can throw him in and hope he gets a top 10. It's just, I think there's better plays. Andre says it's Recchi, not Ricky. Yeah, it is Recchi. But last Thursday it was Ricky. He earned his Ricky name that time. Anthony says, is this track notorious for wrecks? Well, it's very small. We have no practice, and there's no rubber on it. So I could see some wrecks happening for sure. Mr. Miyagi says, cheapest guy in play today. That's going to be Michael McDowell. He's 4,900. John says, great show, Chris. Keep up the positivity. Awesome listen as always. Thank you, John. I always appreciate you stopping by. Landon says, it's Recchi Spinhouse Jr. Yeah, for sure. He's earned that nickname over the course of his career. Chris Meyer says, Chris is my hero. You're my hero too. Dirty Bird says, I watch you every time. Great intel. Thanks, brother. You're welcome, Dirty. I'm not calling you Dirty, but that's your name, so thank you for watching. Sean says, when playing NFL, which is my game, you're one of my go-to guys. Just wanted you to know. Oh, appreciate that, Sean. It's been forever since we've done NFL. Mo says, just got into NASCAR, love the content. Thank you, Mo. Hopefully you can stay around. Kevin says, if you had to fade in one lineup, who would you fade? GPP, Kez, Logano, or Elliott? Ooh. GPP, Keselowski's going to be really high owned, so I guess he would be the one to fade. I mean, I don't feel great about saying to fade Keselowski in that, just out of that three, but I mean, Logano and Elliott, I think, are probably going to outscore him. I know they're more expensive, but I guess if I had to pick one, it'd be Keselowski. I mean, you do have the 2 competition cautions, too, which could throw a wrench into things. D. Johnson's a little irritating swallowing a lot, but great job. Thanks. Swallowing a lot. I gotta swallow. I can't choke on my saliva. Beat Nerd says, good work on Patreon articles. What's your thoughts on Custer? It was a long article this week, but Cole Custer, he's fine. I mean, I don't think he's going to move up a ton of spots, but starting 22nd, he can crack a top 20, honestly get a top 15. He's in good equipment, Stewart Haas equipment. He's priced below guys like Daniel Suarez, Ryan Preece, and Ty Dillon, which I think is a mistake. So, oh, the video went blurry? Hold on. Let me just check to make sure it's still not blurry. Oh, looks good. Maybe just a second. All right, let me pop the chat back out and get some water. All right, let me just check and see how many people are in here. All right, Justin says, never mind, he's not talking to me. Blurry video. Hopefully it's not blurry anymore. Conscious says, how do you feel about Boyer outscoring Logano today? I don't feel that good about it, but if Logano doesn't lead any laps, that can certainly happen. But I do expect Logano to lead a good chunk of laps today. So I think Joey outscores Clint Boyer, but there's also a price difference too. OS says, how much cash leave on the table on DKGPP? I don't think I'm going to have much at all. I wouldn't probably leave over 1,000 because at Bristol we went Dominator, so we're definitely not going to want to leave too much salary on the table. Anthony says, weather's great. Hopefully hopefully the track stays clear. Let's hope so. I just want to have a nice, good race today. We don't have any weather. I don't want anything to go wrong. Let's just enjoy a race today. Swifty says, all 3 Penske stacks? Sure, you can go for that. I think all are really strong plays. You got Logano, you got, I almost said Chase Elliott. He's not on Team Penske. Joey Logano, you got Brad Keselowski, and Ryan Blaney. So, yeah, I think the stack for them is pretty darn good. CS is clear for me. Okay, Boyer. CS says, Boyer has been Ricky Stenhouse of the future. Yeah, hopefully not today. I expect a strong race from Clint Boyer, but let's just hope he stays clean. Jack says, Bailey Curry winning this whole thing. If you think that's going to happen, you should probably put $100 on it and you'll be living on your own island. Goodness. But I know you're kidding. Pete says, temps are unusually low all day. Will this keep that low line from coming in? Tougher. I mean, it's a good question. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen out there. We've had no practice. I just think the cars that are usually good here and have been good this season are probably going to be strong again. I mean, we might have a couple of surprises, but I wouldn't throw too much into that. I mean, it's just a really tough question to answer with that. Jolly says, do you analyze other sports too? I do. Baseball is my second favorite, and then I do NFL and NBA, but I really like NASCAR and baseball, so hopefully we can get some baseball this year. I don't know anymore. Seems like that's kind of been stuck for a while, but hoping we get some baseball. Jay Smoke says, what's going on, brother? What's up? Another day, another dollar. If you had to choose between Kenseth, Newman, Reddick, or Almirola, who would you choose to fill the final spot? I like the savings on Newman. Newman grades out as a better value for me, but I do think Reddick could outscore him because of the starting spot. DJ Dog says, who do you like more, Harvick or Kyle Busch? I would go with Kyle Busch, but it's really close. It's like really, really close. Ryan says, yes, basketball, maybe football too. Yep. John says, Blaney or Eric Jones? Blaney. I think he's going to score more points than Eric Jones. Philip says, is it okay to run Brad Keselowski and Logano in the same lineup? For sure. I have plenty of lineups doing that. Frank says, we have pretty much almost had the same last name, Purnell and Purnell. Ron says, you're 2 studs to build off. 2 studs. So let's just talk 10K up. I think Chase Elliott and Joey Logano are my favorite guys in that 10K and up tier. You also can save some salary too. Philip says, thanks, Frank. Mike says, is Denny going to be lower owned today? Because, Yeah, Denny's going to be pretty low today. It wouldn't surprise me if he's like 10% or maybe even lower. I don't think anyone's talking about Denny Hamlin because I usually look around and see what everyone's talking about. I try to read as many articles as I can, as many videos as I can, and I really don't see anyone talking about Denny Hamlin, so he should be probably pretty low owned today. Andre says yes. Joseph says Kyle and Bubba or Johnson and Boyer. Well, I think you're going to need a Dominator there, so I would go with Kyle and Bubba, but I like all four of those guys. Britt says, always a good time in these live streams. Keep up the juicy content. Glad my content's juicy. Try to keep it juicy. Chris says, hit the link for the NASCAR DFS. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you stopping by. Bonnie says, Newman or Jones. I will go with Jones. Conscious says, I think he meant swallowing a lot of info. Oh, that might make more sense. Jack says, Custer or Austin Dillon. Whew. I'll go Austin Dillon. But there's also a little bit of a price difference, too, so maybe a 2v2 would be better for that question. B. Keen says, how you feeling, Austin Dillon? Sorry if I missed it. You did miss it, but I'll say it again. Austin Dillon has been able to get 3 top 15s here the past 6 races, 4 top 20s, so I think he's fine at this price tag. He seems about 700, maybe a little bit more too cheap, so I don't mind buying an Austin Dillon dip, even though I really don't like playing him. Where are we at? Hold on. Okay, lost my spot. Okay, Jeremy says Harvick, Keselowski, or Logano? Well, just value-wise, I think it would be Keselowski, Logano, Harvick, but most likely they lead the most laps in that group. I would say Logano. And favorite play under 6,500. I guess Austin Dillon at 6,300. Daniel Suarez is fine, but I feel more comfortable playing 6,300 for Dillon than I do 6,500 for Suarez. But also Ty Dillon's there, Ryan Preece. It's really close. I mean, Austin Dillon's got the higher finishing potential between them. Mr. Miyagi says best driver 5,800 and below. I would say Custer, just because he's really cheap. All right, we're over an hour, so we're not going to be in here much longer. So let me see if I can. Am I going to be able to catch up to the chat? Yeah, I think so. All right. Justin. Eric says, I likely missed this, but thoughts on Preece. He's a pretty good positive PD play. He's starting 33rd. He does have a top 20 here. He's decently cheap. I think he's pretty safe. Casey says, who's my number 1 Dominator? Probably Chase Elliott. I think he could lead the most laps this race. He's got the first pit stall. He's been so fast this season. He's been good at Bristol, but I think him and Logano are going to be pretty solid Dominator plays. See you, Justin. Hopefully you have some good luck as well. Nice haircut. I will do that. Thank you, Justin. Ryan says Austin Dillon seems too underpriced. I agree. Ownership projection for Truex. I don't think Truex is going to be that high owned. I think he's anywhere from like 10 to 15% probably. Sean says, got to go. Thanks, Chris, for your hard research and your great attitude. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Steve says, are the Toyotas behind the Chevys and Fords a real thing? And a reason to... Look, it is a real thing. I mean, just their body is not... It's not up there with Chevy and Ford yet. So it is a real thing. I mean, they're going to get it together eventually, but no practice obviously hurts that. I mean, it could be a reason to fade Gibbs, but Jones is too cheap, so I would not really throw him in there. But if you want to go underweight on Kyle Busch just because he hasn't led any laps this season, he's been slow. I get that. I mean, Truex has had a good season. His average finish is going to look a little bit worse overall just because he's had some wrecks. But overall, his average running position's been good. He's been picking up some fast laps. Denny Hamlin's been pretty solid. But they really haven't been dominating too much. I mean, Truex has gotten up front for sure. But, I mean, there's a reason to fade Toyotas. But, I mean, I think they're going to get it together at some point. Luke says, do you like Jimmy Johnson? I do. I just don't like him more than Clint Boyer. Steve says, oh, never mind. Roy says, Dillon starting 20th, Almirola 2nd. Comparing those two, Dillon looks better. I agree. I think Dillon's much better play than Almirola. And, yeah, Jones as well. Cyber says, 0 MDB here. I mean, you can take a stance there. I think MDB might come in pretty high owned, and if you think he's going to fall back, yeah, it would make sense to be underweight. I kind of am trying to be even on the field on MDB because I think there's a good chance he can finish inside the top 10, but there's also the chance he can get into a wreck and lose a lot of PD. So we'll see. I think the price is really nice on MDB, though. Seems a little bit too cheap. Should probably be closer to 8K. Frank says, what other Dominator would you put with Blaney and Elliott? Probably, since Elliott's pretty expensive, you might want to throw in a guy like Keselowski or Joey Logano because they're more affordable than a guy like Busch or Harvick. Royce says Dylan, Jones, Bowyer, Elliott, Kyle, Busch, Keselowski. If that's a lineup, it looks pretty good to me. Let's see. Hit that like button. I agree, Conscious. You should hit that like button. Royce says Blaney, Custer 2. Rep says Bowyer or Kes more points at the end of the race. Whew. It's really close for me. I have them projected almost the same amount of points. I guess Keselowski's the better value there, and he's obviously got a much easier path to leading a lot more laps than Clint Bowyer. So I would say Keselowski if he can keep that early lead. But Bowyer, I mean, he's going to have that PD upside, and he could potentially get up front too. Conscious says, where's your girlfriend? I forget her name. Her name's Juliana. We want her pick of the day. Juliana's pick of the... If she's in the chat, I'd like to hear her pick of the day as well. I don't know if she's in the chat or not, but if she is, let's hear your pick of the day. Mike says, I seem to have a lot of Byron. I think I like him better than Bowman today. I don't really like Byron today. I would prefer Bowman, but I think Byron's going to be really low owned. It's a good price at 7,700. He's been fast this season. I will say Bristol's not really been his track, though. But, hey, he's been really fast so far. So, all right, I'm not going to be in here too much longer because we'll be here until lock, and I got to get out here at a certain time so the video will upload in time so other people can watch it on playback. So I'm going to skip around a little bit. If I missed any of your comments or questions, it's nothing personal. Just going to skim over here. EW says Priest, Busher, or LaJoy. I will go with Priest, and thanks for watching. Not like I'm leaving, but the guy said thanks for the content. So, okay, I'm going to answer a couple more, and then, again, if I skip anything, it's nothing personal. Conscious says, dude, you really know every driver. Appreciate you. No, yeah. Appreciate that, Conscious. I feel like it's kind of my niche doing NASCAR. I mean, it's pretty much what I look at all day, especially with no other sports on. It's really easy to focus on just solely NASCAR, and I watch every race, so fun to talk about. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this live stream, guys. Blaney or Kes, Mr. Miyagi asks. I like the price on Blaney better, so I guess I'll go with Blaney, but I think Kes is more likely to lead laps early on. But let's see. Justin says, you keep good company in here. I've yet to see N-bombs drop. Yeah, if you do that, you're definitely getting kicked from the chat. Don't need to have any of that in here at all. Definitely don't want that. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for the live stream, guys. I hate to just not answer any of these questions, but if I answered every single question, we'll be here till 3, which is not... It's just not viable for me. So I do appreciate everyone asking questions and hanging out in the chat. I will answer this last question. Nick says, can you believe we used to roster Danica Patrick Wild? Yeah, that's crazy. I think I played her at Daytona once, and it worked out. And unfortunately, I don't think Juliana's here, so she's not going to give us our driver of the day. So that's unfortunate. But anyway, guys, I'm going to head out. I appreciate everyone stopping by. If you have any other questions, you can leave it in the comment section below, or you can hop in my Discord if you want and ask me questions, because I'm going to be answering questions in there for the rest of the day up until lock. And then we're going to hang out during the race and all that good stuff. So appreciate everyone stopping by. We are about an hour and 13 minutes, so I should probably cut it off, and I'll see you in the next stream.